The echo.
Now, did you move that? No.
You can unmute yourself, Jeff.
Okay, I'm unmuted. I guess they can hear me now.
I'm gonna ask the people that have the audio, if you can talk for us here, because as we speak, we can hear you. And we hear it after. Mr. Martin.
Good. We're going to be discussing the COVID-19 coronavirus. Board of Health is updating the actual number of cases for the county. That under the heading of COVID-19. We currently do not have any first responders who are under quarantine or asymptomatic. Everybody is at the station and ready to respond to any emergency that we have. And we are continuing forward with no issues. All resource requests that we have made to NEMA have been delivered to us. We do not have anything that we're waiting on.
What is that?
No, not me.
Mine's muted.
Mine's muted.
No, but we can do it.
If you're muted, JD, they can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Well, yeah, just sit next to me.
I'm getting over.
All right, I'm just gonna get as far away from them as I can.
Right there in the bottom. Okay, now, if you turn the volume down, you get the not getting the feedback. Okay. The next item here, I want to talk about the parks. We've been getting a lot of complaints. We've been ready to be voted. That the many like phone call, one parking closed. While we have no parking, I can be open up for everybody. And it's the same reason that we do trains. We open and maintain for people to be able to walk. They have a place to go use it and risk. However, not my open. And that is everybody. Complaints from neighbors.
So just so I understand, there's two issues with analysis. One, the people using it, the second, the parking. Okay. The people using it, they can use it at their own risk, correct? No dogs.
Well,
How about the parking? Is that the main issue? Is it a safety issue, or are they just complaining for the sake of complaining? I don't know.
So we've had two friends. We open up the gate for people to park.
we
On one side, but people can still park. but I brought Alice and we closed the gate.
The reason we opened, mainly there are no.
I guess I go back, and this is the part that I struggle with. That people want to go, they want to walk, they want to get some fresh air. You don't have any food. Very few sidewalks in town Granby. And I guess I feel more comfortable having people in our parks than walking on the side of the road somewhere. And a lot of our roads in Granby are busy roads in the first place that people walking on. If we didn't have this right now, then I think we'd have people in the park, and it would be a concern. It would still be a concern. I want people that in the area they can go to go outside. They want to go for a walk and stuff like that. Which is just one area. So, I think people that may live close around out, they think it's nice if we just go to that park with us. Me is what's the difference between Dufresne and Glen Allison, both parks.
I think the difference is Brown Allison is not, Brown Allison generally both in the surrounding community during normal time. This is started.
So people don't have, there's a lot more people right now. I think 5 places to go up because they're feeling comfortable in their house.
I love it.
Like I said, to me, it's just another park. Some people like walking the trails. They could be like wild animals. But it's true. It's real. Or you may have people who walking in the footing's not the best. You walk up around out, it's a level area, around stuff like that. I'm not concerned about walking through trails. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of how we can share. I see people, that's one of the places on the outside they can go to. I mean, I have concern before about doing anything and stuff like that. It's happening there, but that's not what I'm doing.
The only concern I have in life is basically the safety issue. If we open the gates in Granby and the gates are closed in the other town, we are such a open, we're doing excellent. I don't want all these people from downtown London or Northampton, hey, there's a park in Granby we go to, you can park the car. There's no control currently to Granby residents only. That's my concern. I don't want to see what example. We're doing better at the rest of our city as far as less people have the virus.
There are less people.
You're right. And this is where I agree with you. What happened? All of a sudden, it says, Granby County, you can open your park. You think only people from Granby County are gonna go to the county for a haircut? No, they're gonna grab from wherever. The same thing going on right now. Massachusetts lakes, they had it on the news. At golf courses in Connecticut, they're all Massachusetts lakes. Because Connecticut's allowing golf. Massachusetts is not. So some people are going to golf every day in Connecticut, the place they can go to do it. It's gonna be no different than a park, if you get a place to park versus in your home, the town you live in is not providing you a place to park. When you find out a place you can park, you're gonna go there.
I don't think it's in golf is apples to apples. There's a lot of towns that close to us have sidewalks and stuff like that. South Valley, stretch of sidewalk and down 116 that you see people walking out. We don't have that. We don't have sidewalks to give people the opportunity. You know, you talk about a safety reason. That's something I'm looking at. I'd rather if we can have people that are not walking on a road, on a side of the road. This side of the road doesn't have any room for people to walk, which is my concern. And I've seen it. You know, that's what I look at. I don't see people from the town because they use our park.
You wouldn't know, because you have to see the driver's license.
Like you see the car. The car parked somewhere and it's just out of, I mean, what's out of state, but.
That's right.
Yeah. But I just don't see it. Is what I'm saying. I don't believe it, because I said, our surrounding towns, there's places that people go. Think Belgium town, south of Chicopee, Oil. All the areas that surround us have Hadley. Those places have sidewalks.
Well, I think the safest way to park and walk on a level, I'm not taking the trails to do that, I'm just saying a level field, is for people to go to the school complex, park in the parking lot where there's parking spaces, and then walk on the level field back and forth. And that gets the cars off the road. And the people can have their freedom, they can maintain their 6 feet apart. You know, that's all I'm saying. But opening the door, and again, we have no control of who is coming to park or even to the school. It's got a mass plate, and there's nobody, you don't have anybody checking. I don't want to see people coming in that have a high count of COVID-19. Say, what's going to Granby? They got to park. They got to use low count of COVID-19.
I don't. If you look at everything that has to do with COVID-19, as long as people are social distancing, people are wearing masks. The biggest thing is social distancing.
I agree. Just like in Worcester today, they're handing out $300 education because people are not social distancing. Well, I'll do it.
How's that? Is that better?
All right, can everybody still hear us out there? Al, can you hear us?
A lot better. But all I'm saying is, I don't want to open the floodgates for people from outside Granby to come here, because Granby just is such a low count. And they come here for that reason. That's the reason we all decided to close our parks, because all the abutting towns are around us too. And then you can get out to Northampton, Westfield, West Springfield, they're all closed. Those parks are all closed. Chicopee, everywhere, they're all closed. Why do you want to hang a big open sign?
Well, that's not true, because in Holyoke, the reservoirs are open.
I don't know about that.
Holyoke,
Actually, reservoirs are open, and
yeah.
I don't see people there at all.
I
I mean, I see people, but not crowds.
but it goes to my point. There's people there to walk around. So Holyoke has a reservoir. It's not a park, but I guess the question to you, Jay, is that if you're okay with the school, why wouldn't you be okay with Brown House?
Because they don't have a place to park.
Brown House does have a parking lot.
They have a parking lot.
That's what I mean. If you open up that gate, I mean, this time they must fit 40 cars in there.
I honestly.
Not to say that everybody would.
Yeah.
Oh, they say more than that.
Yeah. But I'm saying, you see people are social distancing and things like that. Just as a town, I think we have to offer something for people. And I go back, because it's just my take at it, because we don't have sidewalks where people have little kids, or they have people that you know, don't feel safe walking on the side of the road.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but just like on Route 116 in the village. They had state police there counting so many cars and they shut the gate.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
I don't think we'd have that problem, Jay. And if it comes to that, I think that's something we look at. But just saying no from the get-go because of what ifs, I just think we owe it to the residents of Granby to look at some options for people. You know, I can tell you for myself, walking, it's, you know, cars come by, you kind of move out of the way because it's, you know, then you end up on someone's lawn or something like that, and you know, the ground to the road isn't level, and I just think if we can offer someone a safe environment to spend some time outside and walk around and stuff like that, I think we should. We've already done it with one park as far as Dufresne, so why not look at Brown Allison, which is, to me, the difference of the two is that it's a different part of the town. So not bringing everybody, if you talk about bringing everybody together, it opens up the availability for people to go to different places. But also, you know, they're not hiking in a trail. It's a nice track, nice level thing where people can walk around.
If you want to use the track, you can't even use Mount Holyoke, because that's closed.
Well, it's a private school too.
But it doesn't make a difference, it's a track in the school. Chicopee,
Well, it does make a difference. It's a private school. A lot of your colleges are closed, so you can't use the property.
you can't use Chicopee contracts or anything like that.
I understand because they're closed. Schools are closed. They're private.
And we're gonna look at
I'm talking about a park, Jay. We already have one that's being used.
Do we know if there has been a significant uptick in visitors to Dufresne?
nobody would.
Has anybody,
Nobody won.
but I'm saying, has anybody complained about a significant uptake in traffic coming in and out of Dufresne or parts in the parking lot?
Just on Facebook, I've seen mentioned people are not social distancing. But again,
That has nothing to do with parking, that has nothing to do with it being overcrowded. I guess I'm wondering, Chief, have you guys gotten any complaints or anything regarding Dufresne being more crowded than usual?
you're still muted, Chief.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I think the question that I heard was, are we getting any complaints about any like uptick in the use of Dufresne's Park? And I don't think there's been any complaints. I can tell you that I drove through there yesterday. It was early afternoon and it was very busy. There was a lot of horses and horses and things in there. I didn't get a count. There was a lot of people using it.
So more so than in a normal Sunday in May?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say in general, you know, yesterday was a gorgeous day, so there was people everywhere. They were on the trails, they were walking on the roads, in the parks. I mean, you know, people are dying to get out of their houses. So, yeah, there was a lot of foot traffic everywhere, including Dufresne's, at least yesterday.
Okay, thank you. I guess my reason for asking that was, if we're seeing an uptick at Dufresne where we could rationalize it was coming from other communities, my guess is it probably isn't. But if we're seeing a significant uptick where that park is becoming crowded, then maybe it would make sense to open up Brown Allison and diffuse the situation. You can't stop them if they're going to congregate. We can't. We cannot
Well,
keep them from not social distancing. Right?
Yeah, you can. The police can issue them a ticket if they're not social distant, according to the executive order. Executive order from the governor is a law.
Well, that's not true.
No, it is true.
There's my thing, Jay, because it does say you'd be a family of 4 and be all close together.
It doesn't say that in the executive order.
It does. It talks about immediate family members or something like that. you don't have to social distance if your immediate family in the same household or something like that. It does reference something. I can't remember exactly what it references, but something to that. In other words, I'm walking down the street or something like that. It's, you know, my wife, my daughter, we don't have to be 6 feet apart.
I just read the new executive order today, which included the map, and it didn't say anything.
Well, this is a previous one that was, I think you put it out, but it said that in the last one, you put out with the mask. I think it was Friday that they put it out. Friday came out. Yeah.
They put it out.
It was something, I believe, I remember reading something in there about that.
I didn't see anything.
But anyways, I think the point, it's just, I like having options for people in Granby that.
I think we should have all the options possible for people in Granby. It's just that I'm afraid if we open up too much, we're gonna get people from other communities coming here. And Granby has such a low count of COVID-19. I don't wanna see people come from other places just for the purpose of parking and just for the purpose of walking around.
Well, two things. You're assuming that people that live somewhere else have COVID-19 and they bring it to Granby. That's one thing. Secondly, like I said, look at our surrounding towns. People have sidewalks and stuff like that. We don't have that. That's what I'm saying. It'd be great if you had sidewalks that went up down 202 and people would probably use that, but we don't have those. We don't. There's fairly, besides a couple of neighborhoods in Granby that have sidewalks. Besides that, there's not a lot. And that's what I said, for people to walk around. That's just where I'm coming from. It gives the people the ability to do that. And I don't see a massive amount of people come to Granby to use our parks. Could it happen? You get some people from other towns? Sure, that's possible. But
unfortunately, by keeping brown elephant closed, we are creating a disturbance on birds. Because without the gate, they'll park on Burke, and you don't want them parking on that stretch of Barber. That's a dangerous stretch.
a curb there.
People are going to do it. I prefer they do it safely.
I prefer to do it safely too, but if they're doing something unsafe, then I think the police should go out and take them. I mean, that's just the way I look at it. It's simple.
When you say unsafe, are you talking about social distancing or are you talking about parking?
I think it's what Jen's saying. Jen's saying she's trying to eliminate that so it becomes a safe environment for people to park.
You guys can go ahead and do it. I'm just saying, I don't want to see an influx of people come in, and there's no way that we can prove that the people in the parks are from Granby or from anywhere else, because there's no good check.
Well, we
Can't prove that they're not.
That's what I'm saying.
But we could look at, if, like you said, if there's a big influx of people going to parks, that's something we can look at as well.
She said there was a big influx in Dufresne.
Well, that was this past weekend, which was one of the nicest weekends we've had in how long?
Exactly. It was like really first nice weekend.
I mean, the kind of point I'm making is that people aren't going to stores anymore. People used to go to stores and stuff just to go out and walk around. People aren't, they're not leaving their houses, homes, unless they need to go somewhere and get something.
Take Northampton. You can't even watch at a local park. There's a police car at the gate.
Yeah.
We're allowing the people more freedom here in Granby.
Look at all the sidewalks in Northampton.
Go ahead with your sidewalks. You've got that. Doesn't make it. Go ahead.
But it's a place where people can walk safely on sidewalks. That's the point I'm making.
Chief, if we were to open up Brown Ellison, would it be too taxing to your department to regularly sweep through and monitor group levels?
No, it wouldn't. I say that in so much as what we know about who's there normally. It wouldn't be. We would do it like we are with everything else and do it in our passes. And if there was a specific problem that we were dealing with, then we would make it more, more frequent. But just to be clear, even the guidance from the governor's office and everything about it, about the social distancing and well, what's going to be face covering starting tomorrow. I'm sorry, starting Wednesday. It certainly is enforceable, as Jay said. It absolutely is enforceable. Is our first option going to be write a ticket to everybody who's, you know, not 6 feet? Well, no, that's not going to be our first option. The first option is going to be to get them to comply, you know, voluntarily. If they don't, there's other options available, whether it be a citation or so on and so forth. So no, there's ways for us to do it. And to answer your question, Jen, yes, we can drive through there and try to make sure people are doing the right.
And Chief, I mean, not to get the offices in danger or anything like that, you do have speakers in your cruises that, like a PA system, if you see people that are not obeying, you can tell them to do.
Yeah, we do, absolutely. With PA systems in the cruisers, yeah.
So we don't have to get worried about the offices. They can just tell, hey, if you don't social distance, you could get a citation. They should separate.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think everybody should be. And I think, you know, you get to talk a lot about the parks, but you know, there's businesses that are open. There's this is going on. It's not like everything is shut down. That, you know, there's restaurants that are operating and you know, the social distance issues there as well. And I mean, from what I saw going back to Sunday, and I'm going to use well, Cindy's as an example. They were very busy, but people from what I saw were doing a pretty good job. They looked like they were grouped together with their families or whoever they were there with. And the groups were separated by, like, you know, what looked like mom, dad, children, and things like that, or maybe a man and his wife or two friends or whatever. So they were at least social distancing to that extent. You know, I don't think it's reasonable to expect, you know, a husband and a wife that are walking through the park to be 10 feet away. How are we going to know? I don't know. That's the issue. But it would be nice to have, you know, people have a place to get out. It's outside. You know, if it becomes an issue, then you can address it.
So you'd be in favor of open the gated ground out?
I would. I don't see the difference that people are gonna. They're going there already. They're just making a you know, a parking issue or a resident concern on the streets because they can't park where the parking lot is. We're already doing it at Dufresne's. You know, you could actually make the argument that the increased traffic at Dufresne's might have been less if Brownell was open. Maybe some of the people would have walked there. Who knows? I don't know.
No, I'm just reading some of the information. I look at this is the order from the governor, which was dated May 1st, 2020, which was Friday. And it's more towards people wearing masks and things like that. However, too, if you're in public and you have a health reason, you're not required to. You don't need any documentation for what the reason may be either. So
That's correct. You don't need any documentation.
I guess the question is, would the board be in favor of reopening Brownell on a trial basis? See if things work or not. If they don't, we can reconsider shutting it down.
I'm in favor of opening Brown Allison. Again, I don't want to say opening because our parks are not open.
Utilizing the parking area.
Utilize the parking area for people. Again, it's the same thing as people use at the longer.
Sure, utilizing the parking area.
Now, that's gonna be, you know, a certain time the gates open, a certain time the gates close, like.
I would say it would be like this.
I think they do it now, don't they? In the past, they open at a certain time, didn't they?
No.
They didn't do Brown Allison?
The Brown Allison is always just left open for season.
What time does it close? It's 7:30. So why don't we make Brown Allison obviously can't be in two places at once, so we make the rounds and, well, I'm gonna say half an hour later. No reason to say that, because daylight's getting longer and longer. That-
And I asked prior to doing this, should we want to go to the Board of Health to make sure that they don't have any objections?
Mhm.
As a local enforcement.
I agree.
I would make the times the same, so would they know the time's the same, they don't gotta get in their mind. This time is this place, this time is this place. I just make it
We're supposed to run on the.
Yeah, we can keep it at 7:30. I'm just saying, you can't get to one place, the gate will still be unlocked.
The only issue that comes up, that came up the other week, I think it was this week or last, nothing last, like 28. It's the people's responsibility to get out of there, okay? If a town employee comes to lock the gate, there's still cars there, there's one or two options. The employee locks the gate with the cars in there, or the employee contacts our police department to handle it, because the parks department is not geared to moving people out. They're not trained, they're not responsible for moving people. That's all I'm saying.
People aren't out there by 7:30, they close the gate, they lock the gate.
Just like when you go to the state park.
Right.
They lock the gate. Yeah.
State parks, they close right on the gate.
Yeah.
Gates are locked at such and such a date. If you're in there for the night.
Okay, so as long as everybody understands.
I think people need to
You do that, sure.
understand, and people need to understand that they need to, that what's required, and required, you need to be out of at 7:30.
Because we did have an incident already.
I know.
in Craig,
I know.
And that's why I want to make sure it's clear up, and everybody knows if you don't obey the signs, you get locked in, you get locked in.
And I would say, and we could send it out to the Parks Committee, but I know the Parks Committee was in favor of Dufrane's being open. A few weeks ago, we first had a discussion as far as
Mhm.
Dufrane. So, we could put it through to the Board of Health. But I'd also like to say if the Board of Health is fine with it, we just move forward with it before
Well,
next
I think
meeting.
when the email sent to the Board of Health should CC the Parks Committee, because, I mean, why appoint a committee? If
Oh, no, I agree, Jay. I just don't see them having an issue with it, but we'll definitely notify them what this board's intentions are.
All right, well then why don't I make a motion to allow parking at Ground Ellison dependent on the response from the Board of Health. To be closed at 7:30 p.m.
So if they have no issues, we'll
If they
move
have no
forward.
issues, we go forward with it.
You don't want to get feedback from the Parks Committee at all?
I'm assuming they want the park open.
Or that's the thing.
From conversations that I've had.
We can send it to both. We can send it to both and get feedback from both.
No, if they have an issue.
I'd like to get feedback from both.
We can do that, but if all is in favor on all departments, I'd like to go forward instead of having to read it.
With the signs posted, open and closed. and
Correct.
they're not out.
Same setup as Dufresne.
What time we open the parks?
7:30.
7:30?
So
So 7:30, 7:30?
Maybe 7:30.
7:30,
Okay.
7:30.
Yeah. And,
And Taylor Street is taken, but
yeah, so unless the Board of Health or the Parks Committee have any concerns,
then they can send them to us, and then we can go from there, other than there's no concern.
and I would like to have a date for a response from them. Maybe just leave it a phone call to speed up the process, because I don't want to wait.
Well, I'm sure the Board of Health at their next meeting will address it.
Yeah.
And email over to their office.
Okay. All right,
I think they run the meeting every Friday, with the chat.
well, so that'd be good, so if we can do it now, that would be good.
That would be great.
So maybe if there's no issues, no concerns, we could probably have the Brown Ellison all set for this weekend. If it works out, that would be good.
That would be good.
All right, is there a second to Jen's motion?
Yeah, I'll say that.
Is there any further discussion on the topic? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes. have new business, accepting departmental reports. Everybody had a chance to read them?
I had a comment on one.
Did everybody see this picture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you have the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Under the department reports, the only thing I had department reports, when the building inspector had a car key, was that the town's car or his car?
This car.
His personal vehicle.
So he,
But he doesn't know when it occurred, if it occurred here, if it occurred.
but it's his responsibility, town. That's all I was.
I think he's just making us aware of it.
But the issue is, as I said, you don't know where. The job site could occur on that.
Yeah, that was the question I had in the department report.
All right, in that case, I will make a motion to accept the departmental report.
I'll second Jen's motion.
Is there any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, for the maintenance warrant. We have warrant number 65, dated 4/24/2020, the amount of $288,857.73. That's a bill paying warrant. We have warrant number 66, dated 5/1/2020, the amount of $384,600.38, which is a payroll warrant. We have warrant number 67, dated 5/1/2020, the amount of $80,213.36, and that's the means of paying the taxes and other civil from that payroll.
I will make a motion to accept the warrants for fiscal year 2020, number 65, 66, and 67.
I'll second Jen's motion.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Three ayes. Chris, you want to talk about spending freeze for fiscal year 20?
All right, there's been a lot of problems in this town, but when, because of this COVID and emergency order and closing down a lot of businesses and hotels and restaurants and whatnot, there is a large deficit in this year. But also for this year, they are talking potential fee cut, maybe for June. Okay, which will result in us losing revenue from the state because of not having the money. I did speak with Cheryl regarding this potential spending freeze. What I would like to do is, with any spending freeze, anything over, I put 5,000 to begin with, we can need to give them more. Have to either have to receive approval of the town administrator or the board of selectmen prior to the and that includes the school. We just don't know where we're going to end up going with all this. I don't have a problem with our local receipt because for meals tax, we need to look at okay. So I don't see an issue with our local receipt in the state. And that's the most that could probably affect us maybe a couple $100,000. And I think we have enough conservative in our local receipt to make it up. But I just don't want people to spend their money. So I would like the board to approve a spending freeze. Any expenditure over
No. I guess it's just we deal with it every day. Is 5,000 a comfortable amount for you?
I think it's a fair. Because if you're gonna do 5,000, then that's a big expenditure. You know, it's not gonna stop us from doing, utilities or any other stuff, but it's gonna stop us from having to spend a lot of money for, say, for capital expenditure, things of that nature, which right now shouldn't be. I did speak with Cheryl Stanton, though she did mention that they would like to still do some asbestos remediation in one of the schools.
Okay. Could you either turn the microphone on?
My microphone is on.
I know, could you either turn it on or speak up? If you
Then I'm
can?
gonna get a lot of echo.
I'm gonna turn mine off, I'm gonna turn all my speakers down.
Because I started it and then I was getting feedback. Okay. Mainly the issue is, like I said, is the only large expenditures that I can see coming down the line is, the school talked about. You turning down the volume?
Yeah, but you won't stop coming through my phone.
Glenn, mute your phone.
They said mute.
As I said, Cheryl had mentioned that they have the asbestos remediation in one of their classrooms that they would like to be able to do. Huh? Right, and I don't see a problem doing that because that's a health and safety issue, number one. I do know that they are in the process of negotiating a reduction for the transportation with both First Student and with Vanpool regarding their contracts. They maybe have additional expenditures that will be necessary. You don't have a mute button on there?
Well, no, when he talks, he's coming out of here, plus he's coming out of here.
So I don't have a problem with automatically allowing the school to spend those monies, but I just don't want somebody realizing that because they've got $100,000 that they haven't spent or $50,000 to just go and spend it just for the sake of spending it. The other item as part of the spending freeze is the FY21 budget. I was reading an article from April 30th, and they're projecting anywhere from $4 to $6 billion to reduce state revenues due to this COVID emergency. The original state budget was built on $31 billion. If I look at a $6 billion deficit, it's 19% reduction in potential state aid.
Yeah, they said that municipality, what I read was would be losing somewhere between 15 and 20%.
Yeah,
In our particular case.
20%, 20% would be about 1.2 million. I've been talking with some of the department heads. I've been talking about asking them to submit a revised budget with, I know some communities are saying between 5 and 10% reduction in the request for FY21 from over 20. I have a problem asking for that amount, knowing that our budgets are so tight. What I would do is, if we had to, is a lot of the capital expenditures that were approved that we were going to spend out of free cash, I turn around and say, those go by the wayside. We use that to fund operations for 1 year only. And I'm sorry, we just have to make do. But at the same time, when we get to our FY21 budget, again, spending freeze. Anything over a certain dollar amount, no, it has to get prior approval.
Yeah, I know, speaking of what you're talking about, is around the state right now, they're talking about severe flooding. And you're telling all cities, towns, the agencies, be prepared. It's coming.
And then when I talked with Cheryl, I also had talked about that they may not be able to get the full 305. Initially, I was looking at between $50,000 and $75,000 reduction on the school side out of the above minimum, because I don't know what they're going to do with net school spending. You talk to the legislature, you talk to, DESI, you talk to DOR. Nobody knows what you're doing with that net school spending figure. And if that doesn't get a corresponding decrease along with state aid decrease, we're going to be in trouble.
Well, I don't know if you saw it in the local paper. Ludlow laid off 20 school employees, 13 of which were teachers. They offered the superintendent already decided that. He did it.
And
I didn't know if you had seen it or not.
no,
That's not being done right now to protect the budget. When you take someone off, school no longer paying for them, getting on unemployment.
Right, and then they get the 600 stimulus on top of it.
The school is no longer carrying.
Yeah.
well, plus part of the problem becomes is with remote learning. You're going to have an issue on remote learning because it's going to have to be negotiated with the teachers because it's going to require probably additional work on their part in order to do remote learning.
Those require a lot of work on their part. I've been talking to some of the teachers.
And because I listened to it up my way, up in Greenfield, and they're talking about a lot more work. And while they're saying they're hoping the schools reopen come fall, there's no guarantee.
Well, the school committee has already approved a memorandum of agreement for remote learning in Granby. And when they did that, I requested a copy. And I still haven't got one. So I sent a second email to my assistant requesting a copy of it. And I still haven't got it, so if I don't get it by the end of the week, I'm just gonna go see Chad. Formal records. Because we need.
Before we do that, let me try and get a hold of the superintendent of schools. It's just see if she can provide me with a copy of it.
Well, she has that. She was.
It's a MOA or MOU with the teachers union, the MTA, regarding remote learning. And also when I spoke with the superintendent of schools, with the uncertainty of the FY21 budget, I believe it would be not prudent at this point in time to approve an FY21 budget on behalf of the school. So I believe they will be delaying their budget hearing until we have better feel for the numbers. Additionally, when her and I were talking, we both feel it would be a good idea to create or to have a joint remote session between the selectmen, the school committee, and the finance committee to address the crisis we will be facing in FY21 regarding our budgets.
We haven't just discussed that before, in terms of some new data.
But everybody has to be on the same page that, as Glenn said, be prepared. Be prepared because you can't sit there and say, we're going to do a level service budget, which is usually a 5 or 6 or 7% increase when we're looking at a potential of a 19% decrease in state aid.
Like every department.
Yes.
And I think the one with his mom, because that is abortion.
Correct. And you're right, with this,
Not picking it. It is what it is. Now, what I'm so, and you're all of this.
Al, Jay was asking if you can hear okay now with everybody muted.
It's better. It's certainly better than it was when the meeting started. From time to time, you get a little bit of feedback. It's good enough that, we can keep up with the conversation now. Yeah.
But you can keep up with Jennifer and so thing.
The funny thing now is, now that you're talking right now, Jay, I didn't hear that. And when I'm watching the meeting, it's coming over two microphones, coming over Chris's and whoever 02 is.
That's Glenn, that's your phone. I think it's your phone that everybody's hearing.
All right, for the next meeting, we have a cannot be in this family, we're gonna have.
Yep.
Jay, did you?
Go ahead, Al.
I'm sorry. Did you have a question for me? I didn't hear that.
He was
No.
just asking if you could hear okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's better right now.
Because everybody was muted except Chris, so we didn't know if you could hear the rest. That was the question.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Well, I just came off of mute. Now I'm going back on. And I don't know if you can still hear me or not.
You speak loud enough, they can hear you on my mic from way over there. So I just want to let this board know that a letter will be going out to my departments to take a serious look at it. Additionally, I don't believe we'll have a town meeting before June 30th. So what I'm trying to do is develop I'm not going to do a 1/12 budget. I want to do a 90-day spending plan to submit to the Board of Selectmen as the Chief Executive Officer of the town for approval, for submission to DOR, Director of Accounts, for approval by the Department of Revenue. Either that, or we have to do it monthly. Yes. In my viewpoint, and I believe that'll get us through September 30th, and I hope and I pray by September 30th, we will have a town meeting. And we will have a better feel for what the state is going to do on their budget. The problem's becoming is the state is saying they can't get together because of the social distancing. They can't get together to discuss the budget. We may not have a state budget probably until January, maybe even February possibly. Which doesn't help us because our tax rate has to be set in December.
I had something that I've written down. It was basically about the junior, senior high school, with the school maintenance and custodian. I mean, you only can clean the school so much with nobody being in there. Maybe it might be time to have them come with some kind of plan to paint each classroom or something like that, come up with a budget for that. Because everybody's always complaining the junior, senior high school needs work. I can't see paying maintenance people and custodians if they don't have to work.
Correct, I would assume they're already doing them.
I don't know what they're doing because they don't answer.
That would be a question for the school board.
Well, and that's what I'm just asking here to together. Maybe it's something we should look at when we're looking at these $5,000 expenditures. If we can start getting that junior, senior high school up to par, and they can maintain their social distancing, even if one works in one classroom, one works in another and paints it, or replace the ceiling tile. It might be an ideal time to do it.
Yeah, I would agree. It's a good opportunity. But
Yeah.
it's not good when the school is empty.
If we're paying for the labor, and all they need is some materials, because it's not like they're cleaning the school every day from the classroom, because there are no classrooms. So I'm saying, it might be an ideal time to upgrade some of that stuff. I don't know how you two feel about it.
You know, in theory, it's a great idea, but where are we going to come up with some of the funding for class?
We can look at that on our 2 weekly basis, but don't forget, we also have the authority if necessary to borrow it on the end, but
if we're gonna get a return on investment on anything, I'm looking at it from that standpoint, that why pay labor if labor's got nothing to do?
But
Let's give them some, stuff and then they can do it.
part of that problem, Jay, is if it doesn't fit in with our spending plan, the
I understand.
112 plan, DOR isn't gonna look favorable upon us by doing it. Okay, that's the problem you gotta understand, is that 112 budget.
Well, maybe we can just ask the school for your 90-day plan that they're coming up with, how much work can they get done and how much it would have cost for the supplies they want to do.
So they turn around and say, we need $300,000 to do all the work you want done. I can't approve something of that nature.
No.
No way, no way I can do
Because they
that.
gotta use common sense too. I think Glenn knows.
Taking the school is something they want to do in classroom and stuff like that. Now you have available time to do it. You haven't children there since the past couple of months here, so you have the availability and time to do it. And, hopefully, I'm hoping that they're doing something like that. Let's be honest, from summertime, wow, it's probably 2 weeks on the summertime, short window of time to do it between when the kids leave and back to school in September. So, additional time. I think that'd be a good question for the school committee. The things they're looking at doing. Things will cost a lot of money. But it does take time to paint classrooms and things like that.
And like Glenn said, when they use it for the summer classes, they can't do work in there. And right now, they're not doing any work at all. I mean, we're paying for the labor. How much can it cost for the material to replace some ceiling tiles or flash some paint on the wall or something?
I think it's definitely something for the school committee to think it's a valuable expense for a good thing.
That's it, you get a return on your investment. We're investing in labor, why not get an investment from a?
If we're paying them to be there, I 100% agree.
Like I said, questions that posed to the school committee, as they looked at things like that now,
Right.
realizing the staff again working.
And like I say, if Chris can give them some limits, say like, ceiling tiles, paint, I'm talking the easy stuff, I'm not talking overhaul.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. Like the house, every place, and
Floors
or
got
the strip glass and stuff. Like that.
and
There's a couple months on summer, really can't figure out how to do it. Like,
Yeah. So, Chris, you gonna look at that, we're gonna look at that, and maybe cap that, anything that's being purchased or buy out, goes through you, and or the board.
Yes,
makes sense to me.
And director or motion.
either way. You, as the chief executive officer of the town, have the right to implement these spending freezes.
I think we're all agreeing, so why don't we just do a motion and then we'll do a vote, so we don't know from there, so everybody knows we're all on the same sheet of music, that's all.
I think it's clean. You can do a motion on it, vote on it.
I'll make a motion to approve a spending freeze for the remainder of fiscal year 2020, with a cap of $5,000, and will be applied to be approved by the town committee.
Or the stuff.
Or the school board.
I will second that.
Any
Further
further discussion?
discussion?
All
All
in
in
favor?
favor?
Aye.
Three ayes.
Some of you. But I'm just thinking we can do something, we do that, but they have to give you, yes, they're gonna give them projections, they're gonna give them a plan, what they want to do. You just don't ask them on the money, what are you gonna do? Do you plan?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Plan, and model, and stuff like that.
Yes, GDC.
EVC contract amendment.
Yes, We had talked about, or Jay had talked about, amending the current Meta grant contract with PVPC. He's got a copy down there. And basically, we're amending it to include work for the new MVP action grant that's due June 11th, 2020. The reason that this amendment is being proposed is that it didn't cost as much as was budgeted for the Meta grant to complete the work. And with the funds left over, that there would be enough funds to pay for Pioneer Valley Planning Commission services in relation to the MVP action grant.
So you understand, the money you pay in PPPC is for them to put in an MVP action grant application. It'll give you and your board what it's gonna cost to update the master plan, update the zoning bylaws, everything for the stormwater stuff, right? Okay. That's all it's gonna give you, the estimate. So if the town gets the rate, then the town would have to pay 25%. Versus the planning board has to pay 100%, which you can sell. We're trying to save the town, the planning board 75% of a mandated requirement. All right. Well, that's what I said, because we have the money left over. I should say we.
So will the board give me permission to sign this amendment on behalf of the town of Granby?
You want a director or you?
Director is fine. Right. I have a few other things I just want to talk to the board about. First one, I'm going to deal with the recycling note that we want to send out to all the residents. Yes. In essence, what happened is, as the current contract with the Springfield Materials Recycling Facility, SMRF, expired June 30th of 2020. As part of the renegotiation of the new contract, effective July 1, in order to continue with single stream recycling, we had to have enough member communities sign to guarantee them X number of tonnage per year. There are only 3 communities that signed for single stream, came nowhere near the minimum tonnage required. So single stream is disappearing July 1st, no matter what, for everybody. Okay, so what I am proposing is starting June 1st, the week of June 1st, and June 1st, I believe, is a Monday, okay, is to start requiring residents to start doing dual stream recycling, which is separating paper and cardboard from bottles and glass and metal, okay? I had Waste Management develop a schedule. It's a colorized schedule that indicates what week would be paper and cardboard and what weeks would be bottles and glass. So I'd like to be able to mail this out to everybody as soon as possible. Get in touch with Waste Management to implement this effective July 1 or June 1st. And then if we're lucky enough, we'll have people used to separating. So come July 1, we can smoothly transition to dual stream with the SMRF and not have a potential of a contaminated load due to the fact that people are continuing to single stream recycle versus separating the recyclables.
Give them 1 month for
We talked about that a lot.
yeah.
Knowing that we will probably be getting irate phone calls from people again.
So we know that the agreement looks like the picture we got.
I'll get that.
Okay, but I'm just letting you know that we have no choice. Okay, it's
It's not coming from us. It's coming
DEP, Mass DEP and the Smurf.
from, this is a George Stephen Messenger situation.
Yes. While we're talking that, there was a picture that was sent to us by Waste Management of a resident in town who had a nasty gram attached to their trash. We did send it forward to the Board of Health. The Board of Health did investigate it. And come to find out what the gentleman was doing. He would have all his trash from inside his house in a plastic bags. However, on the day of trash pickup, he would empty out his truck and throw that on top of the trash, not inside a bag, just throw it on top. Pickup truck or whatever, okay, like people do, you know, they see stuff and, you know, they accumulate a week's worth of trash and they just throw it in, probably on trash day. Well, Waste Management was refusing to pick it up. The driver wasn't picking it up because the trash wasn't in plastic bags as was requested. And that robocall had gone out stating that due to the virus, they wanted to protect their drivers, please have all your trash inside plastic bags. This happened for 3 weeks, and that gentleman left that note for the driver.
So,
So it's an unacceptable note, number one.
afterwards, the Board of Health,
Yes, because we forwarded it to the Board of Health because of the note that was left.
What happened to the Board of Health?
The gentleman understood and is now putting his trash, I believe, into all bags, even the trash from his truck. Because we didn't get a complaint that they didn't pick it up again. Yes. But people have to understand, it's not us who's doing this. We're the messengers. We've got many, many complaints, or Kathy. And I have to say Kathy because she answers the phone, that many irate people blasted her. And they shouldn't be blasting her. She is just the messenger. You're upset? Call Waste Management. Call their call center. Talk to them. Okay? We are just implementing what they're telling us we have to implement to continue with this program.
Well, there's no need for business, but I do understand why a town person would call us with a complaint about trash. We are the one that contracts for it. So.
But they don't need to be nasty.
Correct, there is no need to be nasty, and that's what the conversation should end. If you're nasty, that's.
You hang the phone up,
You hang the
period.
phone.
Until you can talk to me in a civil manner, I'm hanging it.
Because nobody needs to be subjected to verbal abuse. It's not an acceptable thing.
Correct. But Kathy's too nice. She won't hang up on it. Because I've told her that too, is that you turn around, you tell them, unless you can be civil to me, this conversation's over. And you hang up, but she won't. She'll take the abuse.
I've spoken to, I believe, the director of operations. Regarding trash pickup based on a conversation that I had with another homeowner. And it seems that we do have a new driver in town.
Mhm.
And a lot of the problems started when this new driver took over. And from what I'm understanding, other drivers on other routes and how their routes are in other towns are much more strict than we are in terms of that placement, things like that. He was copying what he had heard other route drivers. I'm hopeful that after he won't be seeing these kinds of complaints. That's my hope. But Kathy, if we get complaints and they're rude, oops, we got disconnected.
Laughing stuff.
So,
And I
okay.
think there's, everybody's tempers are just, it's not an acceptable anything. But I think people have less of a. Because we're all
Maybe so. That's not.
no, it's not acceptable, and it shouldn't be dealt with.
Because the guy who, person who was out doing his job today, and doing what he's supposed to do.
We'll deal with that. Correct.
Because if he did something wrong, he'd be held accountable.
I personally think Josh should not be picked up. I'm not only disposed appropriately or do, but that's just me.
But I would like a letter, maybe a letter sent to the resident referencing this, this, this is inappropriate.
And if it occurs again, then they'll be required to come to the select board to justify their actions. So, okay. Yeah, when you read what's written, it's totally, and it's the frustration coming out. I understand that.
Prior to it into.
All right, next item. Election hours. I believe Kathy forwarded you a copy of the minutes of the Board of Registrars meeting.
Yeah.
Where, when, and I know you're the type who wants it out there as much as possible. Well, you're usually the one who wants the polls open as long as possible.
Oh, it's possible. I would say
I'm just saying, as long as possible. However, for this one, it is the feeling of the registers that the polling hours of 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. is a fair amount of time for any voters that wish to vote in person. However, they are suggesting that we promote early voting by mail by putting out a robocall, which is fine. I don't have an issue doing that. Leave it up to the town clerk or the registrars to tell us when they would want it to be run and the content that they want run on it. And they're saying to publish a notice in the local newspaper. That I'm having a little concern with, because what local newspaper do we pick? Yeah, I'm just saying, you pick the town remote. I don't read the town. No. Usually Kathy Kelly Reagan does it as a public service announcement with the Sentinel, I believe. And then the other is to post the information on the front page of the town website. Yeah, we can do that. I don't have an issue with that. But
I think if you get the notification out there,
We
struggle in the first place. It's being a different.
Being hours for the voting, I think it's our responsibility to think about it.
Mhm.
So people know.
And I don't have a problem with that one, okay? It's, plus due to the quote unquote pandemic, we have to protect our poll workers as much as possible.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking for the following.
Well, protecting them is, more so, you know, I don't really know.
The whole,
Yeah, I understand that, but the way you, the only way you solve that is by having, people encourage people to them. Because if not, you would take in, 6 hour window. They for 600 people. Instead of those 600 people coming out in a 12-hour period, they're now coming out in a 6-hour. Just that time frame. And more, just we're trying to protect our, the working poll.
Well, but also,
Yeah, the other way, you're not limiting. You're still expecting 600 people to come out and vote, and you're shrinking down the time, 12 hours, 6 hours.
and I understand that, but also as part of us trying to protect the poll workers, Jay, is we purchase sneeze guards. Those are those plastic things you see in front of all the registers now with a little slot in the center that you can push things through. I am requiring all our poll workers to be masked, to be wearing disposable gloves, and we're going to highly encourage that our residents come in with a mask on. If they don't, there's two options. One, we can have masks available for them, which is probably not a very good option because masks are like gold at this point in time. Or what we would have to do is set up an area where when nobody else is in the room, if you don't have a mask, you can come in and vote when there's nobody else in the room to practice social distancing and avoid any potential infection of other people.
Is someone doesn't want to wear a mask? So the last, and now, yeah, it goes out, we can enforce that. You have the right.
And that's what I'm saying, but what we would have to do is say, I'm sorry, you have to wait. You don't want to put a mask on. You have to wait until the room is cleared. And this is some of the stuff that's coming from elections division too.
Right.
You have to wait until there's nobody else in the room, and then you can go vote. And that may take an hour, that may take 2 hours, it may take 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 1 minute. But the issue is that these people, the voters have to understand this is change for this election, at least this one election. I hate to have this have to happen during the presidential because I don't know what we'll end up doing at that point, to be honest with you. You know, but we're just trying to be proactive and trying to get the residents to be proactive also. Because yeah, a lot of people want to go in that day, they want to talk, they want to chit chat, they want to visit with the people supporting whatever candidate there is, you know, and you know, if you have a booth, Glenn or Jen, you have a booth to stop by, say hi, and you know, things of that nature. That comes with elections.
I like to increase the time, at least by, maybe 7 o'clock, something.
Most people are home
though. So, you know, get there by 6 o'clock.
That's where we encourage you to vote.
I understand that. We gotta go back to people, some people want to there with them, right? I don't think.
They're not being, that right's not being taken away. We're just altering how we do it.
Okay, I don't think an hour on our side would, is a big impact on them. I think it may help.
What about going to be, instead of 12 to 6 p.m., let's go 1 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Can't, you have to start at least by noon.
Oh, that's right, that new letter didn't say that. How did you say it? You see, I was trying to do the full work.
Yes.
Keep
The
the same
six,
allowance.
no, I
But again, I go down to what I said earlier, unless you get people to vote by mail, you're not helping out the people at home, because it's just the number of people that would want to know less than that time.
Well, does this board want to vote on the hours at this point in time or what? Because I know Kathy is trying to get a feel so that she can get her ballots together and start getting some of her notifications out, because June 22nd is coming fast.
So I am in favor of the 12 to 6. So I will make a motion to voting hours be from noon to 6 p.m. for this election.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second it. That's what the polling committee asked for, so I didn't have any problem with, they're the ones doing it, so their expertise.
Any further discussion? I know what I recommend. It should be 10 and 7 o'clock. We give people the opportunity to work, so a lot of get PlayStation time, keep time, line, waiting to get in. It may take additional time to do it now versus before, in the regular timing. If you have people standing outside at 6 o'clock, you close at 6 o'clock, you have 20 people standing outside waiting to go in.
What's your line usually? Like, anyway, just like when we do race day, if you're in line, you still get to look.
But again, I think it's only fair to, that's the case, it is shown, I've seen before in the past where people walk away. The line. And I think it wants more, putting new process in place, which is understandable, people's safety, foremost. It's how, we'll thinking hours of voting used to be from 7 to 7, and then half.
So you be going to change it from noon time to 6:30? What's the difference?
I will.
Does that feel better with that?
I'm fine with it, I'm fine with the 6 o'clock.
I'm just.
I was just making my point as people that got out of work at 5 o'clock. So like myself, I got to work. It takes me half an hour, 40 minutes to get home. That's all I'm going to make.
So what is it, 6 or 6:30?
I stand by my original motion of 6 p.m., which is up to recommendation.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I was just gonna go to your 7, I'll just say I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Well, it wasn't a motion, so the motion on the table was that.
Right, that's why I said, it can't be that much set up for 1 hour,
That's a benefit. The people that.
The only reason I was going with it is that's what the people requested, and they don't want to do it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I understand your point.
And I do see both sides, but I also see that part of it is if we continue to work on those extra hours, less incentive for people to go fight. Which is really what our goal
But you got
is,
that.
to get people to vote. And most of the time, most likely will be comfortable by name. I have no intention of voting.
Like, Mr. Martin, do they plan to do early voting physically somewhere or?
Well, that's where it's up to us.
Well, people can do absentee ballots at any point in time.
Right. I didn't know.
That's what.
That's what early voting by mail is basically absentee ballot.
Well, I don't even know, like, right, and we did that.
It'd be helpful too, Chris, to have.
Well, we have been pushing that.
Yeah, I think it's been on. I've seen it somewhere.
Well, I'll have Kathy talk to Kathy Kelly Reagan tomorrow, and we'll get some stuff together. All right.
You might even be, you might even see an increase in voting people.
Yeah.
That would be bad.
They'll be, I've been saying it for a long time.
That's the valid.
Okay.
Isn't that a valid reason, like a reason not
On the what? No, well, it used to be that you had to have a reason for absentee, but nowadays, it's basically, you're not gonna be in town, you're not gonna do this, you're not, you know, it's fairly a more simplified process. So, before I touch on the water project, Route 202 water project, I just want to touch upon the recent drive-by / parade issue that occurred. That created somewhat of a consternation on your part with me, Jen. And I know, Glenn, you had some concerns also. It had to do regarding the one for Seamus Conley on Ferry Hill Road. And the issue is approval of said parades or drive-bys on the use of town equipment without authorization.
And I think it's,
it's a good thing.
that we want to count on like that. However, I feel that's something we can't do very easily, go first person out. And if it comes to that, then we should be doing it for certain individuals. Look at their town resources. We're being paid, yeah, for working. So I just don't think that's something we should be doing. And there's a lot of things going on. I think our resources, our fire department, time we spend better somewhere else. I'm not saying something that makes goodwill gesture, because I think it is. But again, when you can't do that for the entire town, because someone else follows, no different from else. That's where we're at. You can't say, well, we'll do it when someone else follows, someone else. That's one area. But like I said, the other one is, this is taxpayer money that's being paid. People are being paid, fulfilling their duty and responsibilities. And I just don't think someone from, a drive-by, again, that's a nice gesture. Warning something like that. With cruisers, fire department vehicles. My concern is something happens, where we are. Right? Also, told that walk off to the side, because there's these vehicles that went by, there's sirens. What do people do? They pull off the side of the road. That's actually a good time to be pull off the side of the road. So, again, that's, I don't think it's, there should be going on.
Okay. There is a parade that is being proposed by the teachers from the high school. Just like they had the parade for the teachers with the East Meadow School. You have a concern with that one?
I have no concern if it's a town function. No concern at all for the town function. That has to do with the town. I know they did one for the elementary school.
Yeah, East Meadow. I said East Meadow, yeah.
I thought that was great. We just combine and stuff like that. That was great. It's a town. It's a town part. So it's part of the town. Going to it with individual house, so it's not part of the town.
All right.
Suggestion? I agree with what Glenn said. But I think we need some common control. You know how we can request to do Frank Park? And a perfect example is charter. We get a request, then we send it to the police and fire, and they make sure it's A-OK and all that. If they want to do a town function, Since we already have it in place for a rental of Dufresne Park, they put an application in, I'm not saying that's charge or anything, to do one of these drive-by parades or something. Because it may be road work, it may be something that somebody has to address. If I do this, they, and time, the police, fire, highway would know what's going on, so we don't create any problem. Or that's too much to ask?
Yes, I'm listening.
Well, instead of people just doing it, send it to the proper channel.
People doing, courses for birthdays.
I understand it.
I don't know that we did. Town resources involved. And this is the point as far as taxpayers money.
I guess, what exactly is the issue for James County resources? The part of the police department, even the fire department job is community outreach. That is in their day-to-day. And I would consider what happened in community outreach. It wasn't just one individual event. Everybody from all that room, individual PhD, other houses were sitting up there and they were doing that. And I want to push back against you that now is not the time for it. And I was thinking about it, now is 100% the time. This is when we need to think our out there. This is when we need something to smile about, especially for younger children, individuals who might be developmental, who don't really have a way to understand or process what is going on. I guess I look at it more as they are doing their job, they are doing the community outreach.
There's a time and place for community outreach. And when I say this is the time, and that's time as well, we're talking about fiscal constraints, budget, and I look at that is busy. For the town, how we go, taxpayers, that's what we need. Yes. There's some taxpayers that we should, their money being back for that. That's a concern. That is their money. That is their money.
Well, because we're always going to have.
Yes. But yeah, but our job is to make sure that the taxpayers have money, it's seen that. When you have two churches that are part of that couldn't have been something else now. We're going somewhere else, we're doing something different. Besides, that's all. That's the point. I'm making. I think it's not a cash gesture. It's a great gesture. Like I said, you talk about the school. They did it. Yeah, I'm talking about the multiple. That's great. That's the community outreach. But when you do it like individual, they start taking things into your. I don't agree.
So is a fairness for everyone that kind of disagreement? We do it for the first,
You might, you know, so you did it down so
I asked the chief, but I can't see why they now did like that. And
what you start taking resources away.
correct, we do have that. And I don't see it. Did you want to say something?
Okay, I was gonna say.
Sorry, the audio is really bad again.
Wait, Jeff. She's talking.
I'm sorry, did you say my name?
I asked if you want to say something. Did you unmute?
Sure, I would love to. I have to apologize to all of you because the audio was really bad. I can tell what the topic is in terms of the, and I missed, most of what all of you said. I know you were talking about the drive-bys. I was able to glean a little bit Glenn, Glenn's concern about, you know, picking and choosing and things like that. I didn't hear all of it. In fact, I missed a lot of it. But, you know, our perspective when it comes to these is it's a great way for us to have outreach with kids and with the community. We do this, you know, this is not new to the pandemic. The birthday piece of it is, however, we're in these types of things all the time. There's, whether it be a funeral or a motorcycle ride that comes through town, we get called on a regular basis to be involved in a lot of these types of things while people are on patrol. And in terms of a cost, there was no cost for that drive-by for Seamus whatsoever. We had people who were on patrol who were committed to that, if you could even say the word committed, for about 3 minutes. They were fully aware that if they had to go on an emergency, they were going to go. You know, I think that these are extraordinary times, and anything that we can do to kind of bridge the gap with the community, and, you know, I think we should. I think we have a responsibility to do that. And I understand your point, Glenn, and I believe you said this, so I hope I'm not putting your words in your mouth about picking and choosing. Certainly that would be a concern if that's what we were doing. We would try to do it in any situation we could, understanding that, you know, there might be situations where we can't. As far as what else they should be doing, I can't think of anything more important that we should be doing and being connected to the community at a time, and maybe, you know, helping put some smiles on faces at a time when there isn't a lot of that. So, you know, it's good for the community, it's good for the kids, it's good for the police officers. You know, it's a part of what we do on a regular basis, you know, pre-COVID. It's nothing new. I do understand, you know, the point of wanting to know about it, and that's valid. I get it. I also understand the point about how it's a bit different when you're talking about a town function, like say the actual teachers' parades. You know, but, you know, if you forget about the pandemic stuff, I'm sorry, the parade stuff, there's a lot of outreach things that we do. Our people are on patrol all the time, and they'll stop, they'll give out bike helmets. I mean, they do a million things like that. Where are we going to draw the line on that? You know, I really would rather our officers not stay in the station or stay in the cruiser, and, you know, I want them to be involved. They are part of the community. So, you know, I feel like it's part of what we do. I certainly understand your concerns, and I'm not trying to diminish them. They're valid, but, you know, I think we have to be part of the community that, you know, that we are part of and that we're in. One of the things that, you know, when we can do it, I think that we should. Thanks for listening.
I do appreciate that, Chief. You know, but I something, you know, handing out helmets and stuff like that. And I know there's a lot of work the police department does as far as community outreach. And I understand that 100%. And when someone's having a funeral or something like that, it's, you know, the police department may get an intersection, so the funeral procession goes through. Same with motorcycle rides and things like that. I think this is different. This is based on the individual, whether it's the individual or any other one. That's the point I'm making. I don't think there's much better ways that outreach can be done besides that. We would set up something for people to interact with a lot of people with a lot of ideas, especially in a time like this. You know, certain things can be done and can be looked at. You know, we can differ processes here. But just I can see that. And you said, you know, yes, they are. You know, does it take away from responsibility? I believe it does. I believe they could have been somewhere else. Something else could have been happening at that point in time. Like you said, if there's a call or something like that, they leave, they go. I did also hear that, you know, when we come by and they're roping around and stuff like that, fighting around. What people do, they pull over. Yeah, so we have people that are pulling off the side of the road to avoid cars that come by which is for the birthday celebration. So birthday celebration, anniversary celebration, what have you. This fiscal time, without a doubt. I'm not disputing that. I just think we need to be careful how we look at spending tax on money. So,
If my idea is we should have a to the town if a group of people want to do it right. If it's gonna be any reason to do a drive, should be run by the police to make sure should be run by the fire department, so they know this time there's gonna be a lot of cars out there in case they get a ambulance or fire. And I think it should be done by the highway department. Because you don't want to pick the day when they're doing your road work. If Dave's paving on the road, we don't want to see a bunch of cars. So if you get any one of the drives, okay, and they go to the department, then we can do one bit. If it's a town and it's approved, then it's no charge. If it's an individual person, then we can get a state for what it costs to us. I mean, just as they come on road. I'm just.
what I'm looking for. You don't have an issue with 10, 15 cars driving by someone's house, and someone happy birthday, happy anniversary, or what have you. I don't have a problem with that. When we have vehicles doing it. We have fire department. Involved.
I can understand it, and I agree with you that town resources shouldn't be involved on an individual, where do you stop? Okay, I agree with you. Okay, but I'm saying people want to do right. We want to make sure. So they still if the town they still should. The only difference is the police detail. I can get right every year in the and maybe now we pay to be a part of that. Now, whether community or not, but it was important. All I'm saying is, it should be coordinated in the state, if there's a better call, and it's a private, no different than charter on a name, or anything else like that. If people would charge them, they have to pay for public services. That's all I'm saying. Maybe you both don't agree. Try and find happy meeting, everybody knows.
Jay,
I'm not, mine's not on. Mine's not on.
Is that better, Chief?
It's a little better, and I apologize. I know everybody's doing the best they can, and I didn't get any of the conversation. So if you're looking for anything back from me in response to what was said, I'm just not hearing it. So I really can't comment on what was said from Glenn or Jay or Jen through that. If you want to give me the summary of it, I apologize. I couldn't hear clearly any of it.
Yeah, we have, so our next meeting, if we're gonna be in person, we all have to have a headset.
To include if you're using the phone.
Correct. Because what's happening is our microphones are picking up each individual.
And everybody's on the laptop except Glenn, he's on his own phone.
For whatever reason, it sounds better right now. I don't know why.
There's nobody saying anything, Chief.
I think because we're all muted except for me and Glenn, and my speakers are way down.
Can I ask what the summary was of what Jay had to offer about the drive-bys and Glenn as well?
You wanna do it? You want me to put it on my mic on it now?
Yeah, Jay, give your,
Mic on is now, chief, is that okay?
Yes, that's good.
What I recommended is, anybody that wants to do a drive-by, they submit it to the town, and it goes through the police department to check the route to make sure there's no major problem. It goes through the fire department, so they know what's gonna happen on a certain day at a certain time in case they have a call. And it also gets looked at by the highway department to make sure they're not doing road work in that area at a certain time. And to me, that keeps everything safe. And if it's gonna be a town function, like a school or something, then if it's approved, there'd be no charge. But if it's gonna be a private function with 60, 70 cars, you know what I'm saying, whatever it is, then we just charge them a detail fee for whatever, like you do normal road work. So we got the safety covered. We're not using town assets on birthday parties, but people can continue to do it in a safe way. And if town resources are required because of the traffic and that, then they pay for it like anybody else, whether it's a telephone line worker or anything else. That's what I said. I don't know how you feel about it.
No, I understand that point. I think if it was going to be that big of an event, 60, 70 cars, which we haven't seen at all, that's, like I said, even though the last one that we were involved in, even though that was larger than we thought it was, and please don't quote me on the number, I think we were somewhere around 20 cars. And I don't know that, I didn't count, but that's my estimate. We haven't seen anything as large as 60 or 70. Could it happen? It certainly could. And if it did, I mean, that I would look at that more like a parade that needs some thought and needs some process. I think what's going to happen, and if we just separate whether or not the police department's involved or the fire department's involved and just say, these are going to happen. People are going to do these regardless of whether or not we're involved. They're doing it, we've had other ones in town that, we weren't asked to be involved in. So they're going to happen regardless of whether we're involved or not. And speaking from that perspective, I would rather know about it than not. So I agree with you 100%. It would be great if everybody would tell us, hey, just so you know, this is what we're going to do. I believe Glenn had made a point about lights and sirens, even in the smaller ones, creating an issue for traffic. And, Glenn, I agree with that 100%. And I guess my question would be, if we were going to be involved in this, I can see not doing that and just going with traffic like the rest of the drive-by. I guess I'm getting the feeling that the board is against these types of things, and I understand all of your points. But for these smaller little ones, people are going to do it whether we're involved or not. So to your point, Jay, I would rather know about it. There isn't going to be, what's the penalty? What are we going to do if somebody doesn't notify us that they and 10 of their friends are going to drive by someone's house? I had a bunch of kids do it for me the other day here. There was probably 6 cars. We're not going to stop it, nor do I want to. And they're not going to call the station. They're not going to call the town. So I understand the points of safety and the lights and siren, and I don't necessarily, and certainly maybe this isn't my place to agree or disagree. I look at it very differently from the cost or using town assets. I just see it very differently. We do things like this on a very regular basis. I'm sorry, my camera's dark. I just realized I'm in the office with the lights off. But so I don't know. My feeling is I like to be involved whenever we can. I also understand, the board and Chris's concerns that you brought up. They're valid. I would stay involved with it if we can do it in a way that, addresses the concerns. And if not, well, I guess we won't. But I guess that's it.
Okay, I'll mute myself so we don't get any echo.
I'm just
Anything else? Chief, too, I definitely want to know, we value your input without a doubt. I know I do. But like anything, you can put 100 people in the room together, 50 think one way, 50 think another way, wrong or right. We both would have our reasons why and how we feel. We do appreciate you talking to us and your response and your thoughts on it. And I think outreach to our residents are huge. It's a huge piece of what we do as far as policing. It's always like, for myself, is always see that's the positive side to that, not always just the negative side. So, I would challenge you and your department to, continue to look at ways to, engage in the public, even in a difficult time that we're in right now. I'm sure there's got to be options that we could do to engage people in a positive manner as well, as you talked about.
Can I ask a question about the board's feeling on the high school parade that they've requested? I think, again, I apologize, I didn't hear some of what you had said about it, Glenn. In fact, I didn't hear anything anybody said about it other than it was a topic of conversation. We'd love to be involved with it. And, we have, it's basically school employees or town employees, I guess I would call them, who are looking to connect with their students. And the East Meadow event was great. I think we can improve it from a safety standpoint now that we've been through it once. They're going to do the same route, or at least that's their plan as of right now. I think we should be involved in it. I think we can do it in a safe way as possible. I think we can improve the safety from what we learned from the first time, and from a cost perspective, if that's a concern, we have basically a DARE activity account that we would normally be paying for programs with students, whether it be the DARE basketball camps and things like that. Well, we're not doing that right now, so I'd be happy to utilize that for any of the cost around whatever traffic concerns. And just by way of perspective, the East Meadow event was $260 or something like that. From my perspective, that's incredibly well spent money when you see the connection that we have to the community. And I think we should be involved in it. I think there's a lot of benefit to it. And I understand that this was a concern for the board, and that you wanted to talk about it and you wanted to be informed about it, as you should. And I would just, they're in the planning stages right now. So if it's yay or nay, it'd be nice to be able to tell them. I'd like to be involved with it.
Chief, I know we spoke earlier. The board was talking, and I don't see an issue with us doing anything that involves the town. To support the town in that way. I think you said it was $240 or so. I think that's a great investment. I think and I would encourage that to be done again. I'd like to have, from my point of view, I'd like to have, police officers and cruisers that are actually dedicated to that parade. And that's what their responsibility is, because I'd hate to see if something does happen and those cruisers, if they're not dedicated to that parade and they have to go somewhere else. I think that creates even another issue. So I think if you could do that again, I think it would be great. And I did mention before, The only problem I had with the one for the elementary school was I didn't know about it. I would have loved to have been on my front yard cheering the people out, waving to them and stuff like that. I happened to be in my backyard. I saw the police cars go by, some cars, and then the fire truck or something like that. I know what's going on. It would, you know, from a point knowing about it, especially as an elected official in town, that's something I'd love to know what was going on. So I could have sat out there and been part of it. I think, you know, as much as you're saying from your department you want to support it, me as an elected official for the town would like to have been there too to support it. And I'm not saying that was your job to tell me at all. So I don't want that to come across. I'm just saying from where that's the only concern, if anything, I had with the one for elementary school. So I would have loved to have been part of it and, you know, put a sign together or something and, you know, put it out there for the teachers and the students as well. I think it's a great thing, and it is, and the involvement, and I think doing it for the high school, I think is an excellent idea as well. I know there's a lot of seniors this year that are, I don't want to say gypped, but they're getting gypped out of a graduation in a roundabout way, and all the activities that comes with being a senior. So something like this is just something small, but it's something that we can do for our community.
Just to clarify, we did have dedicated officers for the East Meadow one, and we would do the same in this situation as well.
Yeah, no, and I understood that you did, and that's my point. I think that's a great thing. I think that should be, you know, that should be done again as well. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think drive-bys are the people who are in town doing what they want.
Everybody's muted right now, just so you know.
My question is the town gonna participate? Because he's not gonna know when every drive-by is gonna happen, because he doesn't know anybody's birthday in town, what the plan is. There's no way.
Correct.
So, right? So drive-bys are gonna happen. Now, if you have an organized function and you're requesting town's access, if the money can come from a fund other than the taxpayer fund, like he said is their fund, then I don't really have a problem. If there are cars or vehicles and people over and above the normal staff.
So I guess, are we going to, how are we determining it? Are we determining it based on number of cars that are going to be involved, or if someone calls and specifically requests our department to be involved in it?
I would say only if they call to our department to be involved in it. Otherwise, we would never know if it was somebody's birthday and a bunch of friends were coming.
Okay, that's what I'm asking, because I do not see, and I'm really trying to understand, Glenn. I'm really, really trying to understand that point of view. But when you consider it as town assets, I consider it as these people that are the beneficiaries of the department's involvement, they're taxpayers as well. So that 5 minutes is a portion of their taxes.
It was the biggest thing, Janet.
So,
Where do you start it? Where do you stop it?
You can't do it for everybody.
well, no, you can't, but I honestly don't think that we've had everybody requesting. Chief, how many have you asked to be part of?
Well, not including the East Meadow. I know of two that we've been part of. The one for Seamus, and then there was one for a younger girl. I believe it was in Jay's neighborhood, which was probably a couple weeks ago now, maybe a couple weeks ago. That one was, to my understanding, much smaller. It was all on a side street. It was a drive-by for a young girl. I think she was up in Jay's neck of the woods. But as far as I know, those are the only two that we were requested. There's other ones in town that happened for other people, but there was no request on our, for us to be involved.
Okay, so you have not had you have not had an overwhelming request for your presence.
No, I would not say it's overwhelming, no. We had a few-
And where it would tax the department to have a member out on the road.
No, generally speaking, generally speaking, our officers are driving around the streets anyway. And all they're doing in this situation is driving by a house. And you know, I don't want to oversimplify that. They haven't all been that simple. You know, the one we did the other day, we had 2 cruisers in it. There were lights, there were sirens when we got there. That absolutely. And then, you know, maybe that shouldn't happen. Maybe it should be driving by and waving as part of the traffic that's going by. That probably would be a better situation from a safety standpoint.
Personally, I like the lights and sirens.
Well, you know, right at the house, maybe, I don't think a little hit of the siren or a little hit of the lights is going to really create any major, you know, public safety issue. However, driving down the street with them to Glenn's point, and I think we may have lost Glenn, to Glenn's point,
He's coming back.
it's legitimate, you know, cars pull over to the side of the road, and while it's not intended for that, it's a reality. So I think his point is good when it comes to that, but I think, you know, those are some of the things that we can limit. You know, not lights, not using sirens, and just, you know, going with traffic like they would drive by. I don't know, maybe I'm not answering the question. The answer to your question is no, we've not been overwhelmed with requests, not yet.
Glenn, did you hear? I'm just gonna turn my speaker down for a second. Did you,
I heard some of the stuff that the chief is saying.
It's okay, we don't agree to this.
well, no, what I'm asking is if we can find a compromise. What if the department partook of these drive-bys on a request basis, but did not use sirens? They're still patrolling. They're still on the roads, which is where they should be.
Again, I just bring it back to, if we can't do it for everybody, and I don't think we can. That's why I struggle with it. Again, it's
And they're
on
on
the
the road,
road,
I
I agree with that.
but then
When you send out the fire department,
they're
they're part of it.
And we take
Taking
a
a fire engine out of the
department,
department,
laying
laying
down the road.
for
What reasons? I guess
that's a little different because these two, the police cruiser, police officer,
That's
that's
part
part
of
of their duties, is being out on the road and stuff like that. And again, I think it's a great community thing. It's taxpayers' money, that's why I struggle with it, it's not part of their duties. It's just to drive by, be part of someone's, you know, parade, which is a happy birthday, or something like that. My question would be, you know, this is, I don't know, maybe make a phone call to that person, instead of being in a cruiser, a personal phone call, I just want to wish you a happy birthday. I don't know, that's what I struggle with. And my job as being an elected official is kind of looking out for, you know, not my personal opinion, it's more of a based on taxpayers. You know, it's their money, it's mine. But just get, I'd be okay with it, I mean, other people are okay with it. And that's, I guess, if you have people that are calling them, I'm not okay with that. Then that's why. So.
Okay, I mean, and that is fair that we work for the entire town. I get it. But I'm also looking at if we try to make every single person in town happy, we're never gonna. We'll fail 100% of the time because no one's ever, like you and I, we will never agree on 100% of everything. And I still look at it as that this is community, it is outreach, it is in their normal job day to day. They're on the roads, they're patrolling, with the knowledge that they have to pull out, they pull off of the parade, which in effect, most times lasts 5 minutes, if that. I don't see it as a drain on our resources.
I didn't say it was great. I think it's a good. I think it's fine. Is that I feel taxpayers' money, and people don't feel we should be doing that. So we need to do that. Does it make that part better? I don't know. Or does it fall off from the officer or the police saying, hey, it's not taking that much to happen to this? I know. Someone called up, hey, I don't know. To me, that's right. There's concerns that I'm sure people have. And they're just always trying to be understanding and frugal that we want money, because that's that we can make.
I would agree with Glenn. You gotta treat everybody equal, but you
Mhm.
don't treat them the same.
Correct.
Okay. Town vehicles to be in town function. Town vehicles should not be in private function. That's the way I look at it. Because you can't be, like you said, in everyone, because just as we were talking about how to resolve some of the complaints happening. If we do these private birthday parties with town vehicles, we're gonna continue to get rid of this. So the idea is to get rid of the complaints. So town vehicles go in town function. Town vehicles don't go in private function. To me, that's the only way we can do it. Otherwise, we're gonna continue to get complaints.
Well, they outreach and stuff like that.
Oh, I understand that, that's fine with it, but bottom line, no matter what we do, we're gonna get complaints. I think all three of us understand.
Well, and that is the point of this whole discussion.
Okay, so we're doing a town function, you can use town resources. You're doing a private function, no town.
But that's where I'm at. That's how I look at it. Oh, there's, and I'd like to say, let's look at some different, especially at a time like this. Because there's a lot of smart people are together come up with all these things that we do. Fire department, police department, ourselves as elected officials for the town. There's certain things that we could do where time where things are on some people. I know we spent half an hour, 45 minutes talking about parks. People get outside and being able to leave the parks. So I think that, just the time that we're putting into this, it shows how much concern that we have. These things really affect the residents of our town.
In town functions, where you're gonna use town resources, have to be pre-approved and planned to make sure you got an adequate amount of resource to do your regular work and support the town.
Can I just add something really quickly? First of all, I appreciate you all, and your opinions and having given all this time. I'm surprised that this has been given this much time, but I'd like to say two things. The first thing is that we just won't do them. If we get a call for a drive-by, we just won't do them. To have this conversation about it, obviously there's a lot of difference of opinion. But the other side of that I really, and I said this in this manner for this reason, because I didn't want it to seem argumentative, but state law gives police chiefs the authority to have control over their vehicles and their people. That's where that authority comes from. And I certainly respect your opinion and your direction, and that's why I brought these two up in this order. You obviously have some concerns about liability and the appearance of whether or not we are able to do it for everybody. So we just it. That's fine, but, you know, where do you draw the line in this? You know, where do I, as the chief of police, draw the line saying, you know what, I have the responsibility to run the police department, and the authority to do so. And while I'm trying to, I want to, you know, do that the way that I think is best, and still try to respect, you know, your positions, both Chris and the select board. So I think the best way that I can do that in this situation is just, let's just not do it. And realize that, you know, there's been a lot of time and effort put to this that I'm just surprised.
Regarding the water main project that we rejected because it was too expensive for us. And basically, they had asked if there were any way that the town could come up with additional funding to cover the higher costs or to scale back the project slightly to keep it within our budget. As David indicated, probably not able to do that because we were under some constraints with Water District 1 and requiring us to do certain items as part of the project. We had to have a review done by Ty and Bond, who was their consultant for their water system. We had to go and do other type of things required by South Hadley District 1, Water District 1, and I think they were controlling a lot of our construction requirements. Then there was a second email from Keith Lincoln to David indicating that that they could develop a set of bid specs for us if we wanted to go out by ourselves for $20,000 to $25,000, and indicated what the projected construction cycle would be like. That's $20,000 to $25,000 with that, but then we would have to do police details. We would have to suck up other additional costs that were going to be absorbed through the Mass Highway project. And does this board still wish to proceed with the water main with these additional costs associated with it?
I went through and read all the stuff, and the PVPC's been contacting me about this, so they want to know what we're at. It'll cost us, like Chris says, $20,000 to $25,000 to get a new price. That's less than 1% of the project. They say we get a new price. They're not planning on doing this till next spring. And who knows what's going to happen between now and next spring? If you don't invest the $20,000 to $25,000 now, you get a new price. The price is over. That's about it. When you get the price, just like we're going to get Glenn's price for the stormwater, then you make a decision if you go forward. We have all the plans, we have everything done, and we've already paid. The only thing is, like Mr. Martin says, he can't do an RFP. So it's gonna cost you $20,000 to $25,000 for an RFP. For work to be done next spring. Well,
You're eating into that 1.2 million that you appropriated.
Which means they come about that project is deal.
It's DOA, and that's two things. One, we tell the people and they decide to get more money, which I don't really think that's going to happen.
We don't have any more money to give.
No, but this is a loan, so it's not like you have to have it all. You can put the loan over 40 years. But in-kind funds, they were giving us $360,000 left. And Keith Lincoln's, email, he's still trying to find out, they're gonna give us the in-kind fund. That's an unknown factor.
So it could potentially push our project up 300,000 plus.
No, that would be money that they're giving us.
Right, what I'm saying, without the in-kind.
No, we're staying with 1.2 million is our cap.
No, I understand that, but the thing is that would mean if we're not getting the in-kind funds, that, I can't do the math today, guys, I'm sorry, my brain is dead, but we would actually, whatever was bid would have to come in about $300,000 lower than 1.2, correct? Am I understanding this correct?
Yeah, what we have is 1.2 million.
Correct, so that means
But
that,
that's down because you've already spent part of that 1.2 in the special items that were required by District 1.
the timing sucks.
They're gonna have money to do those kind of things next year.
It doesn't make a difference. The 5-year rule, they're putting this out for bid May the 23rd. So this section of South Valley, the 54 West State Street goes out for bid May the 23rd by the state. Do work to be done next year.
So in reality, we spent we spent 20,000 on house. Already 1.3 million.
That would be correct.
That was less than we have towards it. But we don't put it towards it, it's the deal anyways.
That's right.
It's a deal, but we still have the funds. We're not, but what I hear people in town saying is they're sick of us spending money
On studies and
on
activities.
studies that don't go anywhere.
Yes, I agree with
And
that.
I can agree with that 100%. And I guess what my thought, and
Hey, everyone's muted.
reasonably think that we would get a bid to do this, that would come in under that.
With any kind of fund, the answer is yes.
But we cannot guarantee that income comes unless we could hold this whole decision off until the state tells us we can't.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. So otherwise, we're almost $500,000 into our 1.2. But if we don't have those in-kind funds and we have to pay out those things on our own,
We would bring it to the people and say, hey, if you want to continue, we need this much more. funding.
right, so that's what I'm saying, is that we cannot continue with the project as is if we don't get those in-kind funds without going to the town,
That's correct.
which I'm reasonably sure, not positive, because they've been on to surprise us. They're not going to, because
If it was a total cash outlay, I would agree with you, but since it's a loan, the payment is like the mortgage on your house over a long period of time. The outlay every year is gonna be a lot less than paying it off for. For the loan, they gave us approval for a loan.
okay, and I understand and I agree. I've always wondered why we didn't fund more things in town with them. When we used to buy everything in cash. And, you know,
Because they have the money from the zone, they could take.
right, I get that, but I like to keep.
But your issue is if you rely too much on debt service, that then reduces your bond rating because you have too much debt to
I'm not
asset
a
ratio.
proponent of financing tech. But I guess what this all comes back to at this point is, I don't necessarily have it. I'm comfortable spending another 20 or 25,000 for something that is reasonably certain to not go.
I don't know if it's gonna go or it's not gonna go. All I know is we've spent, like Mr. Mark says, $125,000. That $125,000 is basically wasted if we don't invest the 20 to 25 more.
Right, so why didn't it stop?
At the 20 to 25. Just like we stopped the last time. I told you guys it was an estimate until we get the bid in. And we didn't pay any money after we did the requirements. And I don't see South Hadley coming up with more requirements, but we have no control if they do.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, so if South Hadley comes up with more requirements, and we have to go back out.
Well, I think we should go to South Hadley first and make sure there's no requirements.
Would you, they could say there's not, but
Then we get it in writing.
I,
Because I know Kathy's got the letters, the envelopes all set. And Mr. Martin and Mr. DeRocher, we're gonna modify the sewer application.
No, I never said I was gonna do that. I said I didn't have time to do that.
I'm struggling with it too.
We're three-fourths way there. We go the extra one quarter, at least we know, okay, well, we spent that money. At least we know what the outcome is. If we go down, we never wonder what if. And I know that I was, I struggled with this last year when this came up in our town meeting. It's to see that we keep on throwing money at it. When does it stop? And, we don't know the actual outcome that could be, and I'm just concerned with the state and their financial situation. And we all know sometimes the biggest state always takes a hit are road projects when it comes to money. Unless it's a need and it has to be done, and they start prioritizing things.
But Glenn, you also have to understand, the project was bid only to get the pipe to about Little Italy. That's it. Not to Amherst Street like we had tried to talk to town meeting about.
Half of our home.
We're $125,000 short.
Like we did, it's one of the things I was talking about last town meeting we had.
I guess my confusion comes in, I'm not bringing this up to being the jerk. But I am starting to understand your previous concerns about the police being fiscally responsible and being exact for taxpayer money. And I can't necessarily think that spending, if a payroll that they're already on is not fiscally responsible, I don't know if I have it in me to say yes, $225,000 for something that we could be conceivably just running the fire.
Well, just like the drawings that we were shown on what the landowners were planning on doing, which would be tax revenue for us.
No, this board wasn't shown, you were. You were shown that, not this board.
Oh, okay.
Time goes on, this was pushed out for years. I remember the businesses are going to be required to look up. That was the last thing from South Hadley. Boy, imagine what it's going to cost 2 years from now, a year and a half from now to do that. Now they're required to do it. Just trying to remember if it's been allowed for so long.
I wanted this project forever. I don't think I can.
Like I said, multiply, divide 25,000 by 1.2 million, and that's the percent that they're risking to go forward.
I understand what you're saying, Jay, but I think at the end of it, what I'm coming up with, especially since, we just approved a spending freeze. Okay, anything over 5,000.
But then also you gotta look at it this way too. I'm gonna use, Cape Hatteras, or Myrtle Beach down that area.
I've been down there a number of times and I'm stationed at Fort Bragg when we have hurricanes and knock all the houses down. And we asked the people, why do you live there? Oh, it's easy. You build a $50,000 or $100,000 home, a hurricane wipes it out. The state and federal government comes in and now you got $250,000. The same thing the next time the hurricane hits. Takes you to $250,000 home, brings it back to a $300,000 to $400,000. Just like when we come out of this, 40% of the small business are probably not going to same business. But the towns and the cities that are on top of it are going to get federal and state money to do stuff.
But not for this project.
Could be for investing economic development, but no economic development's coming in without interest rate.
Agreed, that's what we struggle on, and I understand that the longer we wait to do it, the more expensive it's going to get.
Well, if this bid were, if we're on our own, we're not with them, we would do it ourselves before they.
Right, so I guess that is my, I guess that's my question, or my thought. The state is anticipating starting 2021 March, correct?
Yeah, I believe that's right, so
Okay.
they're gonna put it out for bid May the 23rd.
Okay. So if, since we're doing it on our own, and we're not tied, well, nothing that we're tied to on the state project is like done before their.
Well, that's not a 100% guarantee. They said, what they said is they prefer us to bid separately. Because they don't want to have the same situation happen again that happened the last time. That's why they say, you guys go bid your own, we'll bid our own. Then you guys decide to do what you want, and we're gonna decide to do what we want. Last time we were together, and it didn't happen. And they don't want that to happen again. So the state's gonna bid theirs, the town wants to go forward, the town will bid theirs. And then if the town decides to go forward, then we'll look how much we would get in in-kind funding from the state. Last time it was $360,000. You can take your 1.2 million minus 125,000 plus 360,000. Then you can minus it another 25,000.
I think it's always, I think right now, the one that's popping right now in regards to, the 20,000, 25,000. I think it's a difficult time to spend it at this point. You see a lot of benefits of spending it. And the other part, I look at too is that the town has assets that are money and go for this project. They allocated one to do it. Not once, but then you want to put a second.
No, and I,
Again, for the towns going a little, just all the towards the end.
I think more like 7 days to it,
Maybe, and it's really that study's done and.
I guess my thought process is when the town voted to allow the money to be spent, it was,
under a different time period.
yes, it was, but it was with the understanding, rightly so, that we would have a completed project up to a certain point, and now we can't even guarantee that we're going to get with the money we spent.
The way it was, if we had got the $360,000, then we had done it, if we had the last time, it would have been one, minus it is 1.5, it would have been 1.075. Okay. Then you add 360 to that. How much is it for 1.1 times? 350, making So that's 1,450,000. Minus 2,000,000 was the price for the old. So we're still got like $200,000 that we have to spend.
That would be,
And that $200,000, we're gonna take the workshop. A little, that would only cost $125,000. So we're still under the original cost.
we're not.
I'm just going by the numbers that they get.
What is this gonna be in by?
ASAP. Just like we get every.
Well, when's the cutoff? Cutoff.
Well, if we want to try and tax something that would be May the 23rd, but I don't think they want us within it all, like spread each other. So we got to be pretty much along the same line period. May 23rd is up there for our election.
Do you have, I'm sure you did with your presentation, do you have the bids that came in last time, the breakdown?
Yes.
Can I see them? Or at least hear them? Because I know that the low bidder wasn't the lowest on our part. I guess I'm.
Correct.
You're correct.
Right, so I guess I'm wanting to see what the lowest bidder was.
I think I would give them the lowest point. 1,271,000. I think was the lowest I can call.
Are you talking the lowest one we could afford?
Yes.
That was the third lowest bidder.
Right, so do you remember what that amount was?
It was 1.1.
It was 1.1.
1.18, I would say 1.27. 202 here. Water application.
But that lowest bidder also benefits from the line
Correct,
that they were bidding on.
correct.
But Jay, if they don't even declare it, there is the impression that they gave a low bid so that they could get more with their property due to the fact that they have public water supply going into that building. You're right. I'm just saying that's a concern I have.
Somebody please tell me if I'm doing the math right, because again, my brain is not hungry. So given 1.2 that we originally were approved for,
Mark said we need 120.
let's just say we use 125,000, okay? Now, if we do not get any kind of funding from the state, so if we get no help from the state,
That's all we got.
that would mean basically we'd be spending about like 360,000. We'd be putting in our own money.
Depending on what the price came in, like this March, they came in 1.1.
And then, I mean, for things like detail, all the things that the state was going to do would now become our responsibility. Correct.
In the 1.1, that was our cost, and we were minus 360,000 from it. That's what we were paid. Take your 1.1 minus 360,000. On the
Right.
spreadsheet.
That's what I'm asking. So if we don't have, if the state's not helping us out, we could conceivably think that we would be spending that 360 out of our own pocket, correct, give or take.
That we would have gotten from the state originally.
Am I correct in that?
You would have been a mistake, but it's money we didn't need.
I'm not asking whether that's what we needed, I'm asking, is that what we could reasonably expect to spend if we're not getting help from the state?
I can't answer that. If you want a hypothetical, based on the way they did it on the
Am I
last time.
asking this one?
But the problem is, okay. We go out and bid on ourselves. You have to put a contingency in there. Okay, for the construction, for unforeseen problems you run into, correct?
Yes.
That normally runs anywhere between 2 and 5% of the total project cost.
Right.
Okay, so if you're going 2% above, you're above what we have appropriate. At 1.1, at 1.1, add 2% to that. Okay? You're talking, we could be above it.
Right, no, I guess where I was going with this is that the original 1.2, you've already spent 125,000, let's just add this 25,000 in, for
Mhm.
cost of 150,000. Then, if we say our ancillary cost would be 360 for the details, all of that, we're now down to, the next bid would be 690,000. If I'm subtracting correctly, right, it's a calculator. But could we reasonably expect a bid to come in lower than 700,000?
Not if you're bridging, not if you're bridging.
Okay, and I guess that's where my thought process is, yes, you know, we were approved to spend the 1.2, but it was with the understanding that at the end of that spending, we have something physical to show for it. And I'm a little bit leery of continuing to spend money when the numbers don't give us a high probability. I'm getting almost one.
Yeah, I'm dead. I get an email with you.
Nice one.
There was the lowest one. There's only $165,000 difference between the four bids.
Right, it's not the bids themselves, it's the anticipated cost that we could reasonably expect to receive in a new bid, I guess, my concern, my question. You know, I want to spend the money, I do want to spend the money because I want the project to happen.
Then the only way you get to change, the only way you get to say yes or no on the project is to put it out to bid.
Which is to spend an extra 25,000.
So that's the only question.
I want it to be out with my money. I'm not comfortable with my handling, especially since we don't even know how dire states will be in the next fiscal year.
I completely understand, but if we don't do any investment for the future and for economic development, we're gonna stay a bedroom town.
Jay, I'm right there with you on that. I want this as much as you do, because I've always said, we can't grow, we cannot build our taxpayers if we don't have this in place.
So that's the question you have to ask yourself. Do you want to stay as is, or do you want to gamble the 1.6% and, of the 25,000 and get a bid and see what it costs, and then see what you have left in the kitty? You got enough, great. If you don't, you got any kind of fund, that's great. If you don't have any of that, you don't need to pay. You got to do it our own, this little cost of food. You want it to continue, or we want us to stop here? And if you don't spend the 25,000, you completed the cycle. Because you already spent 125.
I guess I'm looking at the odds of that, is that we're gonna complete that cycle regardless, because we want to do it 25,000 for.
To me, well, we're talking a $22 million budget for the town for a year. 20 to 25,000 isn't much, and I've seen departments in our town. I mean,
Getting
it's
something
small.
out of that, check. But in the end, if the departments are spending that, they're physically, time is getting something physical from that, whether it be services or anything. In this case, we're gonna be, and we're really going to be, what we'll get is a piece of paper that says you spent this much on that. Sorry.
Well, I'll just make it real quick and easy for you. I make a motion that we spend, or authorize to spend the 20 to 25,000, put it on the bid. I'll see if it gets seconded, or if not, then it's, the answer is right there.
Is there a second?
I'll second it because I'm torn.
Is there any further discussion?
I didn't beat it to death.
There's one thing I will say, and I guess I look at it, whether it's 3/4 or 7/8 of the way there, you put that money to it. Yeah, I think we're going to spend the extra 20,000.
We're throwing away 120,000.
We've come this far. To me, it's almost like maybe bad value today. Yeah, I'm gonna fix my engine in my car, I've already put 500 into it. Letting me know it's water to fix it all the way, if not, you're not gonna open the one or not. What do you see? That's, this morning, let's see, and, you know, we spend it, it comes back, we can't afford it, the figures don't look right, bring it back to the council, this is what's gonna cost.
Yes, or no?
Your money, yes or no, we move forward. With that said, second, all in favor? Aye.
I mean, it goes without my vote at this point, but.
No, yeah, your vote still counts. You
No,
can
but
still
it
do
has
it.
to be my vote, but I will go, I will say aye.
That's pretty honest. Yeah, I hear you, and I struggle
It's killing
with
me.
this, it very much so. I just look like we spent all this money so far, we just throw it away, and there's nothing to show for, at least we go the rest of the way, we have something to show for, we can use that and put out the bid. We can start going places, doesn't work out, if not, back to work out without us, we just.
I mean, if it was a large amount of money, I would have more reserve, but it's relatively small to get the project side. And what we've already spent,
No, and I'm not arguing that at all, Jay, that's not what my argument.
but I'm before we turn, keep linking on. I believe we should set a meeting up with South Hadley Fire District 1 and we get everything ironed out, ironclad, period, done. Before we turn to
Do accurate commitment in writing, so we have some.
right.
We should have that all the time.
And I agree with you 110%.
Tomorrow, anything else? That we can talk about for 40 minutes?
I got a couple things, but, we have it this Wednesday for 9 May, it's been canceled. Is that something we want to put on the, we did advertise it, is that something we want to put on the website or something?
Oh, can't argue that there.
Oh, is it? Oh, I didn't know. Yard race days, 30 May to 13 June, we're gonna hold those dates, we want to start letting the people know. I mean, put it out on the website.
We should, I mean, are we on hold on, who knows?
Well, we can always say tentative, I mean, everything we do is tentative.
I like
Yeah. That's all I have to put in the information.
If we cancel it the week before, so it's on hold.
that. And we can reschedule.
But at least people can start, have an idea what's going on, and start getting this stuff ready, whether it's in the trailers or whatever. We just have it put out on the website.
Yeah, it's for people.
Right.
Okay. Tentative, I like that word.
That's all. Because there's just two things that were on the thing. Do we have anything on our action item list? Well, I had asked for the action item list to be on every one of our agendas, because otherwise we're doing everything from memory. And I think we should have the action item list on every single agenda.
Move forward,
Okay. Because otherwise we're doing it for everybody's memory. Exactly. And God forbid if something happened to one of us that was working that issue,
items and we'll discuss it.
Yes, because I need to eat.
I'll entertain it. Chris, do you have anything else? Kathy, do you have anything? I'll entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Yeah,
There's a second.
I'm second. Who is this?
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.